We're going to begin this hour, though, with brand new developments for you in the case of former Kentucky Sheriff Mickey Stines. He's accused of murdering Judge Kevin Mullins, and his daughter is now speaking out. This video here shows him shooting Kevin Mullins to death in the judge's office a year ago. At the time, there were rumors and some statements in the courtroom that led people to believe that this had something to do with Stines' underage daughter. Well, during grand jury testimony last month, a detective revealed that Mullins did not have any sort of relationship with Stines' daughter. And now, for the first time, we're hearing from 18-year-old Lila Stines, who talked about it on TikTok. We're playing the whole video for you unedited. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lila Stines. I am 18 years old, and I am from Letcher County, Kentucky. Most of you may know me, and the others may recognize my last name. On September 19th, a little over a year ago, a lot of people's lives changed forever, including mine. I'm not going to go into detail. I will not be talking about it, but I just have one question. Do you all not have anything better to do than to sit and gossip? You are taking my pain and making it your pleasure. You're taking our stories and turning them into big entertainment pieces, jokes, and for that matter, you're making it your income. Since when did that become okay? So my advice to the people doing that, get a job, do something meaningful with your life, and contribute to society in a positive way. That's all. I come on here today to address a couple things about yesterday's video. When I posted that video, I only had about 950 followers. I did not think it would go anywhere. I thought, people from home's gonna see it, maybe a couple others, and that'll be that. So the first thing I want to say is I had good intentions with that video. A lot of you were asking what stories, what do you mean by gossip? And what I mean by that is the stories that were made up about me and the other party, and that is where the gossip comes in at. I wasn't actually talking about the situation and what actually happened itself. I was more leaning towards the rumors that had been spread about me. I am aware of how serious this is and how much of a big deal it is. I was not talking about news or social media. I was simply talking about the people who sit at home behind a keyboard all day and say terrible things about my name. That's who I was talking about. At the end of the day, I'm just human. I'm just trying to learn how to process and cope with it all. I do want to add one more thing. A lot of you were saying, girl, this happened a year ago. Like, why are you still going on about it? To you, it happened a year ago. For me, when I wake up, it's the first thing I see on my phone. It's the last thing I see when I lay down. And I'm not looking for it. It's just right in my face. I have to deal with it every day when I wake up. So no, it's not gone. It's not died down. It won't for a while.
Now, Court TV has reached out to Lila Stines and to the defense attorney who represents her dad, former Sheriff Mickey Stines, to get some comment on this video. At this point in time, we have not heard back, but we hope to, and we'll continue our coverage, hopefully, as we do. So let's dig in a bit and talk about this. So the sheriff's daughter was a minor at the time of the incident in question. Now she's 18 and spoke out on TikTok, and the video, as she said, got a lot more traction than she thought. Let's talk a bit about this and the rumors that have been swirling that there was some kind of relationship between her and the judge. Let's bring in to help us do that to the chief trial attorney in the Muskegon County, Michigan District Attorney's Office, Matt Roberts. Matt, good morning to you. So a lot of the speculation developed after the preliminary hearing when the testimony was noticeably restricted. It was very clear the witness was being very careful, the prosecutor was being careful what was being revealed. And we knew that the judge and the sheriff were very good friends for a long period of time. We knew on the date in question, I believe it was the 19th of September, 2024, they had gone out to lunch that day. So they were palling around at lunchtime, went back to the judge's chambers with some other folks from the county. And at one point, the sheriff asks everyone to leave to talk with the judge privately. And we know that he asks the judge to hand over his cell phone, and the judge does. And we know that from the evidence we've been given, that Sheriff Stines makes a call from the judge's phone that goes unanswered. And there was a teeny bit of information that came out at the preliminary hearing about the judge possibly having the sheriff's daughter's number in his phone. And so everyone made lots of leaps and conclusions and inferences, and now here we are with this young girl speaking out publicly, clearly in a lot of pain. Matt, what do you think about all of this? What's your takeaway looking at it objectively from afar?
Well, good morning, Julie. It's great to be here. This case really just highlights what becomes a problem for a lot of prosecutors in cases, in that people always want to know the why of it. And oftentimes in cases, and it's usually not required that we establish a motive, but there's the natural desire in a case like this, like why would a guy who's in law enforcement kill his friend who is a judge? There has to be a why. And then you take a little morsel of what that reason could be, and in the age of social media where it's like a game of telephone amplified times a million, you take that and you run with it, and as a result of that, now you have this 18-year-old girl who's thinks that her only option is to take to social media itself to try to defend herself. And I respect that, but it probably just makes the situation worse. It probably just amplifies it even more for her. But I certainly understand her desire to want to get out and explain herself here. So it's really just a tragedy all around, and just an example of how a little bit of information in the wrong hands can just be absolutely devastating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Matt. And you hit the nail on the head with everyone wanting to know the why, understandably so. How did two friends, colleagues with a great relationship for years and years, how does it suddenly go south to the point that one shoots the other, point blank in his chambers on video, and then very peacefully turns himself in? Like it's mind-boggling how this happens. During that hearing, going back to the prelim, I can't understand. If there wasn't something that needed to be protected, I don't know why those investigators weren't just a little more forthcoming at that prelim and said, whatever was the reason. What do you think, Matt?
Well, prelims can be very tricky from a prosecution standpoint because obviously the standard is probable cause. It's a low burden when you look at the overall burden in a criminal trial. So there's always a natural instinct to want to protect a lot of aspects of the case. And it very well may be that if it appears the defense here is going to be some type of insanity defense. So it very well may be that there was a slight element of truth to this, and there was an effort to protect that. But you're right, in some respects, hiding it or making it look like you're hiding it can just make the situation worse, and that may be what has happened here. So I think it's probably just a natural reaction for prosecution to want to keep portions of their case protected in cross-examination, to preliminary examination, because all that can be brought back up in trial. And again, there might be some privacy issues here with the minor. It doesn't mean that it's what everybody jumps to the conclusion of is that somehow there was some inappropriate relationship between the judge and this minor child. So.
Mm-hmm. Right, Matt. We're going to keep talking about this. There are so many layers to this case in the upcoming trial for this sheriff, and so much more that we don't know. Matt Roberts, stand by kindly, please. We're going to hit a break. We're continuing the conversation about Sheriff Mickey Stines, his daughter, Lila now speaking out about her dad and what she says are the rumors that have been very, very painful.
Do you all not have anything better to do than to sit and gossip? You are taking my pain and making it your pleasure.
I'm going to ask you a lot of intensely personal questions. How do you explain it? The worst crime anyone can imagine. Do you feel like you took the fall for this murder? Tell me in your own words, what happened? Let's get started.
Interview with a Killer. New season premieres Saturday at 8 Eastern and Pacific, only on Court TV.
Can we loosen this up a little or give the window down? I'm sorry. Can we loosen this up a little? Be fair to me, man. I got some air. I'll crack the window for you, but I can turn the air on back here. Okay? Yeah. Be fair to me now. I promise, man. Yeah, I promise. God, please. I promise. I'll tell you. It's hot back here, man. I can't breathe.
We've got new developments in the case against former Sheriff Mickey Stines. His daughter, Lila, now 18 years old, is speaking out for the first time on TikTok about how her father's homicide case is affecting her. Now, Stines, seen on video shooting Judge Kevin Mullins, his friend, in the judge's office a year ago, right after the two just enjoyed a nice lunch together. Now, rumors started swirling after the preliminary hearing in the case, where the investigator revealed Stines making a call from the judge's phone that was reportedly to his daughter. Now, reports have come out after a grand jury testimony revealed that there was not a relationship of any sort between the judge, Stines' daughter, or Stines' wife. And Lila Stines has clearly been through a lot, affecting her so much so that she felt the need to take to TikTok and explain how painful these rumors are.
Do you all not have anything better to do than to sit and gossip? You are taking my pain and making it your pleasure. You're taking our stories and turning them into big entertainment pieces, jokes, and for that matter, you're making it your income. Since when did that become okay?
Okay, so let's talk more about this, because something isn't right. Either investigators put out some wrong information at the start, at that prelim, or things aren't truthful that were testified to at the grand jury, but something isn't right. And this poor young woman, 18 years old, clearly is struggling with things that are being said about her in person, on social media. Let's bring back in attorney Matt Roberts. He's the chief trial attorney in the Muskegon County, Michigan District Attorney's Office. Matt, in the break, I was looking back at some of the notes I had, and I remember that prelim really clearly, where they had one witness they called, someone from the state police. And I remember when he was being crossed, Sheriff Stines' attorney wanted him to say what the other folks who had gone to lunch with the judge and the sheriff overheard right before the shooting. He wanted to get into that hearsay, which is, you know, at a prelim, sometimes things are, you know, loose with the hearsay rules and things come on in. And there were objections. It never came in. And the defense attorney kept trying. He kept trying to get some testimony from that police investigator about what was found in the sheriff's daughter's phone, particularly on her social media apps. So my question is, this started somewhere. You know, why is the daughter even mentioned if there was no relationship, as is being reported now by, you know, police and by the sheriff's daughter, wife, you know, testimony to the grand jury supports. If there was nothing going on, why was it even mentioned at the prelim? And it seemed like the issue that the prosecution wanted really hard to stay away from. The investigator was super tight-lipped about it, and the defense very clearly wanted to hear it. They were trying to get it out. Something isn't sitting right with me, Matt. Tell me how you're feeling about this.
Well, I think it's probably coming from the defense standpoint of they're trying to, again, to explain these actions. And obviously the tricky part is you're dealing with a person who appears to be suffering from some type of mental illness or mental defect, and that's what the cause was here. So I think they're thinking in his mind, he's thinking something happened, and whether it did or not, that probably really doesn't give a legal defense to the charge here. It's more of an explanation type thing. So I think there's an effort by the prosecution to keep that out as much as possible, because the result here is this is toothpaste you simply cannot put back in the tube. Once this comes out, this young girl's life is exposed here, and it probably is anyway. So, maybe having a more thorough examination of it is really the only way to actually get to the bottom of it and to put all these questions to rest. So I think that's what's going on here. I think it seems clear that the sheriff believes something was going on. That really, it seems to be the only explanation that makes sense with the other facts when you look at it with the phone calls and maybe some things that were said just prior to those folks leaving. But is there a legal basis for that to come in? Probably not. And at a prelim, certainly you're not going to present that type of evidence because the sheriff's not going to testify at the prelim. So why bring that out? But, again, a little bit of information can do a lot of damage here.
You're right, Matt. A little bit of information, and if it's wrong information, yes, as you're saying, it can have big-time repercussions, as this child is clearly feeling them. So backing up just a moment, I want to dovetail off of a great point that you made, Matt. You were talking about how even if there was nothing going on that's substantiated, but if the sheriff believed it, you were saying how this could possibly come into the defense. I want to explore that more with you. If there is potentially a heat of passion defense you can see here, how might that play out legally for him?
Well, certainly you can have inconsistent defenses, if you want to put it like that. If you want to pursue the overall insanity defense or some type of diminished capacity, if that exists in Kentucky, that's certainly one option to go with. Another might be to basically try to mitigate this down to like a manslaughter type of situation and say that because of this situation that he believed, for whatever reason, whether it's justified or whether it's not, in his mind, if he had a belief that there was something going on here, that was something that he just simply could not overcome. And like you said, the heat of passion type argument that would get this down to manslaughter. So that might be where they were attempting to go. Now, it doesn't seem that they're going to pursue that or continue that any further. But I could certainly see that becoming an issue if there is something for the defense to back that up, whether it's those conversations again before those folks left, or if there's some other evidence here that could be presented. That would be how it would come in.
Yes. How about right after this shooting? The state police officer says as soon as he's called, he sees Stein comes out of the courthouse, has a blank look on his face, takes his gun out of the holster, puts it on a table, so he's surrendering his duty weapon. And then he made a statement to the effect of, "They're trying to kidnap my wife and my daughter." Matt, right there, I think that's an incredibly supportive statement to show something was going on with his state of mind at the time this occurred.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It seems clear in his mind, whether it's diluted or not, or supported by any basis in reality, it seems clear in his mind that he felt that he had to do this. It's not a situation, obviously, where he's taking his gun and he's just going through and shooting everybody in the courthouse. He's very calculated in what he does. He gets the witnesses out of there, doesn't put anybody else in harm's way, all things which could certainly help hurt his case when we're talking about an insanity defense, because he understands the wrongness of his actions. So it's clear in his mind that there's something going on here. And unfortunately now his daughter particularly, and perhaps his wife as well, are going to get dragged into some discussion about it if that's the way this ends up going.
Yeah, exactly, Matt. Tell me, when we think about defendants, obviously this is a very unique defendant. He's the sheriff in the county, has had a clean record. You don't get to be sheriff without earning all the stripes. And serving in such a valued capacity and to have the respect of your community. That's a tough job to get, a job that comes with a lot of responsibility. And so here's a guy, you know, clean as a whistle, and then suddenly this happens, and suddenly everybody's going, what? How does this happen? I'd be concerned if I'm the prosecution on this one. I know they've got the videotape. I know this isn't a question of who did it. Yeah, he did it. He definitely did it. The video shows that he did it. But his state of mind, I'm just convinced was either, as you said, Matt, you know, insane at the time, you know, or possibly suffering from, you know, heat of passion, which, as you noted, would mitigate and turn this into manslaughter. Tell me, if you're on the defense side, do you take this to trial? Do you try it in the community where he served it and take your chances? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you probably have to for those reasons that you talked about. You never know what juries are going to do, and certainly there is going to be an element of jurors wanting to. I mean, they're going to ask the same questions that the public is asking too. It's the why of it, and if you can at least get some morsel out there about why this might have happened, that might be something that could have an influence on jurors. And as much as a prosecution and the judge might try to limit that testimony or limit with instructions to the jury about how they can consider those things, like you said, it's hard to. It'd be hard as a juror to look at a law enforcement officer and say, why would they do this? They would have to have a reason to do these things. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened like this. And that could have a very powerful effect. So, yeah, I don't think there's probably not much of a downside and not much of a risk to the defense for trying this case. I don't know what's being offered, obviously, on behalf of the prosecution. But I can definitely see that there's multiple options available for a defense here.
Right. Excellent analysis from you, as always, Matt Roberts. Thank you so much. We'll continue to report anything more that comes from Lila Stines speaking out. Again, we've tried to reach her and Sheriff Mickey Stines' attorney to try to get some comment from them in response to this. So we'll let you know how we do here at Court TV with that.